that stuff is ridiculous. It's unnecessary. Hopefully we get away from that. We get to like what is sort of realistic and practical. Like I said, if I'm out there saying just eat ground beef and eggs and you're good, that's people can get behind that. But
Right.
what gets the attention is some wacko eating raw brains and testicles. I mean, and this is what the media focuses on, social media focuses on, and it's sort of a disservice to the many, because a lot of people are off put by that.
Hey guys, it's Judy from Nutrition with Judy. Today I had the pleasure of sitting down with Dr. Shawn Baker again. I think this is our fourth or fifth time interviewing. This is our third World Carnivore Month celebration interview. And this time it's a little different where we talk about certain specific concerns on the carnivore diet, things that we are looking forward to, and how we need to progress carnivore even further. And then we do a lot of fun rapid fire questions. So if you want to know little things about Dr. Baker that you may not have known and in relation to carnivore, this is the episode you want to watch. We talk a lot about World Carnivore Month, how carnivore is in practicality and reality, and how to make it stick for you to truly be successful on it. Let's get right into the interview. Hi, Dr. Baker. It's always such a pleasure to have you on my channel. And I think this is the third year of you joining me during World Carnivore Month. So it's kind of exciting to just have this as an annual thing. But what World Carnivore Month year is this? And then what have you seen that is different than, I don't know, like the even maybe 6, 7-ish years ago? And do you think it's become more dogmatic or more fluid? What do you think?
Well, to answer your first question, I think this is the seventh year, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. So wait, no, let me think. No, I think it was started in, actually, I think 2018 was the first year we did it. So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. It's seventh year. Yeah, this is the seventh year we've done this. So yeah, it's been interesting. I think as far as the changes over the years, I mean, gosh, it's just a number of people. I mean,
Yeah.
God, carnivore has just grown and grown and grown and grown. And I just got back from a meeting in Florida, and I mean, gosh, I wasn't a carnivore event, but there was probably 20% of the people in that audience were doing it. So it's grown tremendously. Yeah, I mean, I think has it gotten more dogmatic? I don't know that it has. I think there's been more people that have been sort of trying different things, which I'm, like I said, I've set up from the beginning. I don't know it all. I certainly don't, and I don't think anybody does. So
Sure.
I'm always in favor of people experimenting, seeing what's working for them. We're seeing, I mean, there are certainly people that are very dogmatic about it. There's no doubt about that. So sorry, my alarm went off to remind me to go to this meeting. So I'm here. Yeah, I mean, without question, I think it's with us to stay at this point. And I know I
Right.
can remember several years ago, maybe 5 years ago, people were saying, like a lot of vegans were saying, well, if we just ignore people that are carnivore, they'll go away and it'll sort of fade into existence as any other fad sort of does. But at this point, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe 10 years from now, it'll be like we haven't heard of carnivore again. But I suspect it's going to continue to grow. And anyway, that's a sort of a lengthy answer to a short question. So
Yeah, no,
anyway,
I totally agree with you. I think it's here to stay. I think it's just the way that we're intended to eat. Now, maybe some people will add in a few plants, but generally speaking, I think meat-based is the ultimately healing diet. So I totally agree. I don't think it's a fad. Can you share an update about Revero? I know you have been working so hard in building this network. If you can just share, is it live yet or is it about to be live in January?
yeah. So, and I should be very transparent. Well, I'm working hard, but there are a lot of there's a whole team. I mean,
Right.
I mean, my co-founder, Masr Stami, has been working like a maniac, hasn't slept in like 6 months, I think, to try to get this thing launched. We've got a team of engineers, a operations team, a clinical team. We have physicians licensed in all 50 states that are ready to go. And so the last I am told, because every time I say we're ready to launch, they say, well, no, we got to do this and that. We had to completely 6 different companies in order to do what we
Wow.
want to do. And so the last I've been told is around December 15th. Now, this is interesting. Judy, are you in Austin? Is that
Yeah.
where? I can't remember where you're at. So I'll be coming to Austin in 2 weeks. And the reason
Oh,
I'm going back on the Rogan podcast. So that will also be a nice opportunity and coincide very nicely with our launch. So yeah, we're excited. As just for the people that haven't heard, I'm wearing a t-shirt here for Revero. Just fortuitously, I didn't plan on it for today's talk. I just happened to throw it. I go to I gotta wear a t-shirt. Or, I'm usually wearing t-shirts. So
right, right.
and I just grabbed this one out of the closet today. Digital health company, online, all 50 states. Mission is to basically reverse disease using nutrition, lifestyle, the stuff we should all be doing all along. But unfortunately, as a physician, you just don't get a chance to do that. It's really hard to do that. You don't have the support, even if you want to do it. And even if you're set up as like an independent practitioner doing direct primary care, you're limited in how much time you have, how much support you have. And so we're putting all the support in there. So it makes it, what I think what you need. And it requires not only just the right sort of roadmap, but also all the support that's around that. And if you just don't have the capacity or the time to do that. So you need quite honestly, you need a support system of coaches, of data collection, of the technology that we now have to do that. So that's in short what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. We have a private practice and we see that it's not just about educating. I think at this point, because carnivore is so prevalent, it's not about teaching somebody exactly how to eat. Sometimes there is a little bit of that nuance, but it's also just having people have community to know that, hey, today might be hard, but let's muscle through because this is a good diet for healing. And so the coaches and the dietitians and all of the other supports are so important around the doctor. So I completely agree with that. And it makes so much sense. And I'm so excited for that for our carnivore community. I saw that you recently shared a post or a video, I forget, but you shared that you're changing a little bit of your diet. What exactly, if you could share a little bit, are you still on this updated version of your diet and what's going on?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people saw, well, Dr. Baker's going back to a ketogenic diet. That's, I mean, in part true. I'm still carnivore. I mean, I'm not eating blueberries and raspberries and spinach or anything like that. It's still strictly animal products. I just changed the ratio of fat to protein. And the reason I did that was I had an injury doing jujitsu it was back in August. So I had some cervical radicular symptoms. So basically my head got squashed and flexed underneath my body weight with another 220-pound person on top of me. And so because of that, I had a disc herniation in my neck and it's squishing on a nerve and it's neuroinflammation. And we know that a ketogenic diet has, at least there's a lot of data on that. There's several studies in the literature that show that ketosis in that situation has been helpful for neuroinflammation. And so I was doing that just in an effort to help, decrease the symptoms, and it helped. It has helped. I'll have to say, and I'm still doing that to a degree, although honestly, it's kind of funny. I personally do not enjoy eating a very fat diet. I mean, I eat some. I mean, I guess I should qualify that. My diet on a day-to-day basis, if I eat a ribeye steak, I'm probably consuming 60 to 70% of my calories are coming from fat, which is, pretty consistent with that's pretty representative of my diet. I mean, there's, that's not exactly my diet, but that's pretty much, if you say, what is your diet in a nutshell, I'd say ribeye steak. Now to go sort of in more ketosis or being more ketogenic, I eat even more fat, which is, I might be adding fat to that. And that's something I honestly don't enjoy it as much. I'll just be honest, but I'm doing that as a temporary sort of measure to sort of minimize the inflammatory aspect of it. And I don't anticipate doing that long term. I'll probably go back to, I guess, a little bit more protein based diet.
Yeah, I totally get it. So in our practice, we will put people on a ketogenic version of carnivore, meaning higher fat, closer to 80%, if they're combating something that is causing inflammation. But not everyone goes that way. So, and not a lot of people can even tolerate that amount of fat. So I totally understand. Are you checking ketones? And then do you feel a difference in terms of just being carnivore where you're not worried as much about being super high fat versus now that you're eating a little bit more fat with your ribeye? Do you notice a difference?
So the answer is I did check some ketones initially just to see. I generally don't because I don't really care that much. It's not my goal is to manage how many ketones I'm just, how do I feel basically?
Right.
And yeah, I did. And I was, consistently, my ketones were like 2.5 millimolar. I saw one level one time I was up to 6 at one point, but so yeah, they were higher than they had been because normally if I would check them, it would be quite low. They would be maybe 0.5, 0.6, sometimes below that even. So yeah, they're up. Initially I didn't notice. I couldn't tell you. I noticed a great difference in how I felt, but over time, consistently after 2 or 3 weeks, I noticed a reduction in symptoms by 30-40%, which is a win. So I'm pretty happy with that. And so right now I am still symptomatic, but it's minimal. It's something I can live with for sure. But it's not quite 100% where I want to be, but it's pretty decent.
I love that you're using truly a dietary changes to support your pain that you're going through. So it just shows to everyone that watches your content and just follows you that there are ways to improve even a carnivore diet if you get in pain and if you have inflammation to just reduce it by making these modality changes or small changes and tweaks of adding more fat, which is not always fun, but you get to do that and you could just use these simple changes instead of just getting on narcotics, for example. So I love that you shared that. I wanted to make this question a Q&A this time different, where I was just going to ask you some rapid fire questions. So I don't know if you're up for it, but I'd love to just.
I'm up for the rapid fire question. I don't know how rapid fire my answers are because I'm usually kind of new. There's nuance on most things, but I'll
Sure.
try my
No.
best to give you short answers.
Okay. No. That's game. So 3 words to define carnivore in your opinion.
Oh, 3 words to define carnivore. I wish I could almost need 4, but I would say meat-based therapy. How's that?
Based therapy. No, sounds good. Top 3 tips of starting carnivore.
Eat enough. That's, I think, a problem that most people have. Enjoy what you eat and stay hydrated.
I think that's so important. Yeah, I see a lot of people say, well, I'm going to eat when I'm hungry. And sometimes you don't feel as hungry on carnivore. And then I'll see people then feel the same about hydration. But it's interesting when we eat a lot of protein, we have a lot of breakdown products, which actually need water to help it release through our kidneys. So I think it's such an important point. But I do think a lot of people end up drinking less water on a carnivore diet. So that makes sense. Thoughts of GMO fruits and hybridized fruits over the years. Do you think the fruits we eat today are the same as, I don't know, 100, 200 years ago?
No, I mean they're clearly not. I mean, whether that's making them worse or not or a problem is debatable, but they're not the same. That's undisputable for sure.
Well, the argument would be that since they're bigger or sweeter, that there's likely more fructose per fruit that you're eating. And even if you eat 3 fruits, that's so different than maybe it would be equivalent to 10 fruits back in the day. So that would be my only thing.
Yeah, that's clear. They're hybridized to be more sweeter, bigger. I mean, you got strawberries the size of your fist now. You go to the store, like, holy cow, where did that come from? Yeah, they've changed for sure. Is that making people more sick, or is it worse because of that? That's debatable. I mean, I think you can make an argument either way potentially, but yeah, they're definitely different.
Okay, fair enough. I think I know this answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What is your one cut of meat if you had to live on just that meat for the rest of your life?
It's going to be a steak that has enough fat in it, so probably a ribeye steak.
Sure.
I mean, there's other cuts that you could probably argue also sort of fill that bill, but ribeye is pretty much. I think that's pretty prototypical of a well-balanced steak in my view.
If you were to not eat ribeye, what's your next favorite meat, including fish?
Yeah, I mean, probably lamb would be second. I mean, I think lamb is, argue the lamb might even be even more beneficial than, I mean, you can make that argument as well that it's more beneficial than beef. But the problem in the U.S., lamb is just harder to come by. It tends to be more expensive in the United States for beef. But you go to other countries. I just got back from Greece and lamb's there, and I was in UK and lamb is good. So lamb would sort of clearly be my second choice.
Okay. What's the most unusual meat you've tried?
Probably fermented shark. I had a sort of it was kind of fun. I had this wonderful host, Ivor Alsford from Iceland that brought me out there. Gosh, it's been back in, I think it was 2020, early 2018. And he set me up with all these weird delicacies and whale blubber and fermented shark and, various sort of weird organs and things like that. But yeah, I'd say fermented shark was probably the weirdest.
Okay, interesting. If you had to pick one spice you would add to your meats, what would that spice be?
Just salt doesn't count as a spice, so I mean that's generally what I do. Salt, I'd say probably, just maybe pepper. I mean, just from the taste, and I know there's people who don't tolerate pepper, but I mean or maybe rosemary. I mean, there may be some benefit that it's arguable that herbs are less deleterious to us than spices, but I mean, I eat for because I enjoy the way things taste. It's kind of funny. Somebody asked me why I salt my steak, wanting some high level answer. I says because it tastes good.
Right.
that's really why I do it. But I suppose I could give you a more erudite explanation, but I do it because it tastes mostly. I think meat is what I eat, and the other stuff is, like I said, it's seasoning, it's flavor enhancements, and I don't know that it's not the big game changing type of thing. If you put there's people that don't tolerate a lot of spices for sure. I know that's the case. And so you just have to be mindful of how it affects you.
Yeah, I find it so interesting that, we advocate for a diet. I think people tend to think that if I just eat exactly the same way or the same amount or the timing or the seasoning or the fat, then I will look like them. But that's so not true. And so my guess is maybe that's why someone asked that thing about salt because they wanted to understand to that level. But it's oftentimes when we are healthier, we have a little bit more grace in how we can swing with the spices and the herbs and the seasoning. So it's just interesting. If in a day, do you normally have two meals, one meal, three meals? How do you break up your meals?
And this has been pretty consistent. I mean, I vary from time to time occasionally, but generally 2 meals a day is pretty much that would be sort of representative of what I eat 90% of the time. Is usually 2 meals a day. It's usually a late-ish breakfast, brunch, early lunch, whatever. That's usually my major meal, and I have usually something smaller in the late afternoon, early evening. That's my meal pattern, and I vary from that from occasionally, depending, like if I'm traveling. Like when I was out of town, I was kind of, if I was at a big conference and everybody wanted to eat dinner, and so you're kind of like, okay, being socially grace, trying to be, socially sort of, fitting in
Okay.
that way. We would go to a steakhouse at night and I'd have a late dinner. It's not my preference, but occasionally I'll do that.
Okay. And then do you have a certain amount of protein grams you try to hit in each meal?
Um, in each meal, for me, I don't even bother to eat unless I'm probably getting, I don't know, 70, 80, 100 grams of protein.
Okay.
Most like I'll just say I had my lunch about 2 hours ago, and I had about 2 pounds of ribeye steak, which
Okay.
is that might have been 200 grams of protein.
Okay.
So again, remember in context, I'm 250 pounds. I'm active. I'm fairly lean. So I generally most days will get around 300 grams of protein a day, which seems a lot, but again, considering who I am and what I do, it's kind of what I need. So usually I get probably the majority of it. So it might look like 200 grams in the first meal, maybe 100 grams at night if I do consume a meal at night. So
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. So a few questions on that. So when you went higher fat, have you reduced the actual protein amount or have you just added more fat?
No, I reduced the amount of protein
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
So I went
That makes
from
sense.
so it was something like I remember I was probably eating 300 grams of protein and 200 grams of fat, and then I went probably 250 grams of fat and 200 grams of protein. So there was definitely a shift to less protein, more fat for sure.
Okay. But I still love the fact that you are eating 200 grams of protein and still in a highly ketogenic state, because there's a lot of information out there that says, unless you lower your protein grams to 60, you'll never hit ketosis, which clearly you're saying is not true. So I just appreciate that example. Do you have a favorite carnivore snack?
Yeah, I mean there is carnivore snacks, as you're well aware that Sylvia makes those. I can't
And
remember
Mark,
like
yeah.
it, but I do something similar. I mean that's my favorite thing is I'll just
Okay.
basically thinly slice some steak, usually a fattier cut of meat. Like I'll take a chuck roast, put it in the fridge or freezer for about 2 hours so it's firm, and then I got a meat slicer, slice it up thin, and then salt it, food dehydrator, for 8, 10, 12 hours, and that is great. I mean that's such a it's almost too addictive, because like
Right.
potato
Yeah.
chips, it's like keep wanting to eat them. It's a wonderful snack. It's great. That's by far my favorite thing. Now, do I need anything else? Yeah, I mean occasionally I'll do like a boiled egg or something like that, but
Okay.
but for sure that's it for sure.
Okay. And then in terms of exercise, if you had to only pick one type of exercise daily, is there a favorite that you have? Because I know you do so many.
Well, I mean, for me, as far as my favorite exercise, gosh, it's hard to say. I mean, because I value strength training so much. I think that's so incredibly important to do. So I would probably say, again, I wouldn't just do one thing. I mean, that's just,
Okay.
I mean, because I strength train, I sprint, I jump, I do walking is great. I mean, gosh, I mean, it depends on who your audience is. I mean, just get out there. In my view, not being sedentary is more important than exercise. If like I said, that is probably big. But then from there, you should go on to exercise. So I mean, if we're talking about the average listener, that maybe not being sedentary is so important. I'm standing, like for this interview, I stand. I'm going to make fun of Judy because she's sitting,
I
but I
know.
know you're Judy.
Yes.
You don't have to worry about being overweight or that. I'm seeing you're very lean and stuff like that. But Really, it is. I mean, I used to be very critical of walking because it's just like, well, it's not, and I don't still don't consider it exercise. It's not going to get you muscles. It's not going to,
Right.
but the impact it'll have on your health versus somebody who's completely sedentary is huge. It's orders of magnitude better. But after that, I would say if I had to rank order things, I'd say not being sedentary, strength training, and then from there it might be some sort of cardiovascular exercise.
Yeah, I used to have the same mindset about walking, but I did a challenge earlier this year. And so I go to the gym 2 to 3 times. I know it's like nothing compared to you, but I do lifting. So I'll do all the different types of exercises. But all I did was add 45 minutes of walking every day. And it wasn't even a brisk, it was just a normal, steady pace. And that, with just a little bit more water, made me actually lose weight. And I'm pretty lean. So I was very surprised by just that difference. So I do think you're right. It's so much more different than just being sedentary. Even if it's just walking, I think it makes a huge difference. So that makes sense. What is a common myth about the carnivore diet that you feel should be debunked?
Ooh, gosh. I did a whole lecture at Low Carb Dinner called Demystifying the Carnivore Diet, where I talked about a number of things. And this is one thing that I think in general, like it's going to make me live longer or shorter. I mean, I think that is something that we have no idea about. I don't know. No one knows. People saying I'm doing this to live longer or live, or it's going to make me live shorter. I think that on either side of that, it's just, we have no idea. And that's not why I do the diet. I think the diet is basically there to promote health and provide you health today. And what it does in the future is really unknowable. And I don't think we'll ever have studies that prove that one or disprove it one way or the other. That's probably the biggest thing. I mean, there's, scurvy, it's going to give you heart disease. It's going to, it's going to make your bowels blow up or things like that. Those things are all basically, I think, unknowable. And well, I mean, we know people aren't getting scurvy on carnivore. If that had been the case, we would have had thousands of scurvy. Right. At this point, there are probably, without exaggeration, hundreds of thousands of people that have tried this diet for X periods of time. And for the most part, people are not dropping dead of heart attacks or getting scurvy or any of the things that they've been warning us about. It's just not occurring, at least not to a degree that you could say it's causing a rise over the background rate. It's not the case. But I think really the belief that it is the key to longevity or things like that, I can't say that. So that may be funny because it's a myth that is, I think, perpetuated among the carnivore community. A lot of people saying that this is what's going to make me live the longest. I don't know for sure.
I love that you're so real because, I mean, there are ways that we can prove that if inflammation is a culprit for earlier death and a lot of the diseases stem from that, well, then there are ways that we can prove that carnivore is lower in inflammation. But even with all that stuff, I love that you're just realistic about, well, today I feel better. And that's what matters more than future focus, because we don't know the answer. We might go outside and get hit by a bus and die, right? We just don't know. But if today I feel better, if I have less inflammation today, if my neck injury is less today because I'm eating carnivore, then I think for most people, that should still be a lease on trying this, because if you don't feel good today, there's something you can do to actually feel better today. And I think that's itself is powerful without overly selling the diet. And it's always why I've really mirrored and loved your message, because you're so practical with this way of eating and not just, rainbows and unicorns. So I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who will say, well, if you're taking cocaine, you feel good, or you can lose weight on hair. I mean, that and out, people counter with that argument, but I mean, realistically, I'm just saying, look, and this is what I think. This is a big problem with healthcare in general. I think you basically just kick the can down the road. I mean, when people come into you as a physician, they come to you because they're sick for some reason, and to not figure it out and actually get them healthy. Rather, a lot of time, what we do is we do this sort of preventive care. Well, let's look at your labs and let's put you on this medication or whatever. And we know that we think, we pretend we know that that's going to make you live longer, be healthier, when that's probably not the case. It's kind of lazy medicine in my view, just to plug somebody into an algorithm and say, these are your labs, this is what we think you should do, these are the drugs you should be on, when really we're not doing that. And I think I put so much emphasis on fixing people today, because I think, and this is speculation on my part, but I think people that are healthy, that feel good, will probably live longer. They certainly will have a better quality of life and a better health span, but it probably will help their lifespan. But I can't say that definitively, so I don't. And I sort of, anytime to anybody that says it, like all these longevity gurus that think they're going to live to 180 and they're going to take the Dave Asprey's, now this Brian Johnson guy, the Walter Longos, whatever, that think they're going to live to 120 and be healthy. no one has done it. And so until somebody, if they start producing 120-year-old people that are lean, fit,
consistently.
healthy,
Yeah.
smiling, mentally cognizant, then I'm going to pay attention to that. But that has not happened yet. So until it does, I'm going to be very skeptical.
No, I fully am on the same page with you. And I like to just focus on today and not just focus forward. It's just enjoy your life today. Like that's what really matters. For the upcoming year on carnivore, where would you like to see the community go or shift, or even just a few years out? Where would you love to see carnivore maybe grow into more, or maybe it's research, maybe it's the growth of Revero and other people willing to try carnivore? Where would you love to see carnivore?
I would like to see it be a accepted therapeutic tool first as an option, because again, as a physician, my main goal is to take care of sick people. I don't care if some athlete wants to do it or somebody wants to make it a lifestyle, or because that's all fine and nice, but I think it really should be, we should recognize it as a valid therapeutic tool and not be dogmatic about it. I think we should get away from dogmatism, because I don't think it helps. I think, unfortunately, social media being what it is, it sort of emphasizes the people that are willing to do the outrageous things. You got Liver King out there eating raw testicles, and the Testicle King guy. I mean, it's just, that stuff is ridiculous. It's unnecessary. Hopefully we get away from that. We get to like what is sort of realistic and practical. Like I said, if I'm out there saying just eat ground beef and eggs and you're good, that's, people can get behind that. But what gets the attention is some wacko eating raw brains and testicles. I mean, and this is what the media focuses on, social media focuses on, and it's sort of a disservice to the many, because a lot of people are off put by that. They find I'm not doing that. I'm not eating baboon testicles once a week. Why would I want to do that? I wouldn't do that personally. If the carnivore diet would have been presented to me as, I need to eat these raw organs and things like that, I would never have done it. There would have never been Shawn Baker carnivore. There would never been a carnivore diet book written. But I came across a bunch of people that are saying, hey, let's eat steak and whatever, ground beef. And it was very reasonable for me to try. And so that's where my genesis comes from. And I like to credit those people, the Kelly Hogans, the Charles Maddox, or the Charles Washingtons, the
Amber O'Hearn.
Joe Andersons and Charlene Andersons, and those people that were doing things that was something I felt I could easily do that, because I like eating steak. I like eating eggs. I'm not so much about, raw brains and kidneys and testicles and things like that that have been popularized by maybe some other folks.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I went to nutritional therapy school, and it's a fact that there are certain nutrients in liver that there's a lot of, but it's not required. And it took me to work with so many different carnivores to realize, oh, you don't actually need to eat liver to thrive on this way of eating. And I think you and I have both been doing this for over 5 years, and I actually never eat liver now because of different reasons, but I assume you don't really eat organ meats too. And I think we both look, I know I'm not standing, but we both look relatively healthy, right?
Well, I'm coming into my 8th year. So December will start my 8th year. And just because liver has a lot of vitamins, so does a multivitamin. I mean, so you can make the argument, well, you need to be eating 3 multivitamins a day. There is sufficient, and then there's more than sufficient. And I think, again, this is the thing that the old timers have been doing this now. Now they're into their 15th, 18th, 20th year, said from the very beginning. We see people that come in and they're like pushing organ meats, and they always end up quitting the diet and going away, and you never hear from them again. And that's kind of what we've seen. In that respect, it's something that it sounds good on paper, and you can paint a big story. Oh, the indigenous tribes, our ancestors ate the whole animal, which may or may not have been true. I mean, when we look at these modern populations, the Hadza, out there in Tanzania, they're running around chasing and eating baboon testicles because that's all they got left. But you put them in rather than a subsistence situation, into a surplus situation, which would clearly have existed tens of thousands of years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago, when you got plenty of animals to hunt and plenty of meat and fat. Maybe you wouldn't have been relegated to sort of eating every little last morsel because you got so much around you. And that's, even animals demonstrate that same thing. When there's lots of fat animals around, like lions and stuff like that, they leave a lot behind. They're just like, yeah, we got plenty. I'm not gonna eat, scavenge the eyeballs and everything else that may be generally thought of. Because I don't know, why is it that eating organ meats is not pleasant to me? It just doesn't taste good. Do I think that 100,000 years ago my taste buds would have been different? Maybe they would have been. I don't know. I suspect it would have been the same. It's like, give me the good bits, and then if I'm starving, I'll eat that. But the rest of it, I'm probably not going to eat. But anyway, that's that's an argument we'll never know because we can't definitively go back there. We don't have a time machine. We've got evidence that we were eating big fatty animals like elephants. I mean, that was clear that we ate a lot of fat. And I think a lot of times when you see like, well, animals go for the viscera, right? You see, well, the alpha wolf gets and eats the guts first. Well, that's where the fat is too. I mean, you could just as well make the argument that's where the fat is because they're hunting lean animals. A zebra is pretty lean, and the only place it has fat on its body is not going to be its legs and arms. It's going to be inside, and it may be just a desire to get fat. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it makes sense. And some arguments say that it's because the organs are the easiest place to access because of all the ribs and stuff. So, I mean, like you said, we'll never know. But I just think it goes back to your first point that if you want to eat this way long term, you have to enjoy what you eat. Because if you're muscling through every meal and then forcing yourself to take either supplements or take different organs or, freeze dry and swallow it and gag on it, you're not going to last. And I just think if you just weigh the pros and cons, it's actually just focus on what you enjoy because this is for health today, not health for tomorrow or for longevity, but just what will make you feel your best and what will allow you to enjoy. I think it's important to look forward to eating a very, crusted, grilled ribeye than thinking of, okay, now I have to eat 2 ounces of liver. There's such a difference in even your mindset into going into that meal. So I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a sustainable a success standpoint and a sustainability standpoint, one, you can't be hungry all the time. Two, you got to like what you eat. And if you're figuring out recipes to, like all these recipes for us, like how to gag this stuff down and disguise the flavor of. I mean, that's the recipe basically. It's like, well, why the hell am I eating in the first place? It's the same argument why we don't like to eat bitter things. I mean, it's a warning signal, I think, in many ways, and yet we've got all these bitter foods that they're sort of like, saying it's a learned taste and it's acquired taste. No, it was wired into you because maybe you're not supposed to eat those things. We know that little kids, you stick a Brussels sprout in front of a little kid and they're going to be spitting it out within a second. You give them a steak, whether it's cooked or not, primarily most of the time we feed these kids steaks and they're gnawing on that like crazy. I did a raw meat experiment years ago. I tried that. I did a month of eating nothing but raw, and I literally didn't like it. I was just like, I did not look forward to a single meal. I was like, oh shit, I got to eat another bowl of ground beef, raw ground beef. And it was just, and I ate, nice stuff. And it was, but I would never have been able to stay on that diet. There's no way I would have been able to sustain that. And so, I mean, it's just, and that's maybe just me. I know there are people that do raw meat, and I'm like, fine, that's fine. Just be careful you don't get an infection, because there have been people that have gotten serious, long lasting infections due to that. Amber Ahern is one of them. She said it took her like 2
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she got sick from some raw meat. It took her like 2 years to recover from that. And I've talked to other people that are the same. So it's just be mindful of that. It's something, at the very least, just sear the surface. You're going to need to sear the surface real quick, kill any surface bacteria, and then you can eat the inside rare if you want. I think that's probably a more realistic, because you're still getting 95% of the supposed benefits you believe that eating raw meat confers. And I don't know that really it's that much impressive anyway, but that's how I would do it. If I was gonna push for maybe eating raw meat, I would just sear steaks quickly and then go from there.
Yeah, as a nutritionist, I hear the raw argument a lot because what about the little amount of vitamin C or the water soluble vitamins? And so for a long period, because that logic made sense to me, and it is true that cooking reduces some amounts, we just don't know exactly what, but we kept running stool tests on certain people that were really sick, and then we would see E. coli. And so every time we'd go back and ask, what do you eat on your diet? And a lot of them ate raw meat. And so ever since then, we don't advocate for it because it just takes 1 or 2 bad meats. And if you're eating it 3 times a day or 2 times a day, there's just a higher chance of eating a meat that's contaminated. And so for that reason, our practice, we just don't recommend raw meat, just because we see how sick people get. And I didn't even realize that Amber got sick off raw meat as well.
Yeah. She said it took her like 2 years to get over that. So yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think that I'm not an advocate for well done meat, to be honest. It's a taste guy that you're ruining a steak when you do that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's very fair to say.
Okay. Well, I'll just wrap up with a few more fun questions. If you could eat a fun carnivore meal with a historical figure, who would you sit down and eat your meal with?
Historical figure. Golly, I don't even know. How about Mark Twain? I was just thinking about Mark Twain. He's a funny dude, man. Yeah, I don't know if you heard some of Mark Twain. He seemed like I think I would like his sense of humor. And I don't know if maybe he was carnivore. Who knows? But Just off the top of my head, just because I've been thinking about him. I posted something from him. He had a statement. It says, "I was educated once. It took me years to get over it," and that's very emblematic of what I've gone through. Because
Oh
like,
no, totally.
it's like I've become interested in this type of diet despite my education,
Yes.
despite my medical training. It's just like, because it's almost a hindrance, because it's almost like systematically brainwashed the wrong way. So
Right.
maybe him, that might be fun to meet, to
No,
have him
I
on.
could see that. I could see that. He has a lot of good quotes. What's the largest amount of steak you've consumed in one meal? You could do ounces, pounds.
8 pounds.
8 pounds? Oh my
Eight
gosh.
pounds. Yeah, it's kind of funny. You remember this guy, Cole Robinson, the snake diet guy? I don't know if
Yes,
you know
yes.
him. So I interviewed him, gosh, 5 years ago when I was working with Zach, Zach Bitter, the runner.
Right, right, right.
Zach's a good guy. And we did an interview with him, and he's, doing his crazy stuff. But he was telling me, yeah, you gotta eat and do a 48 hour fast. I said, well, how do you do? He said, well, you eat enough. You eat enough for 2 days, and then you fast for 2 days. So I said, well, in one meal. I said, okay, well, I eat 4 pounds of steak a day. So for 2 days, I need to eat 8 pounds. And so I sat there and I ate 8 pounds of meat. And after about 3 pounds, it wasn't fun anymore. And I was just like gorging. And it took me like, I don't know, an hour to eat that meal. Normally I can eat, I'll eat a pound of steak in 3 or 4 minutes. So, but I mean, people say, I need to slow down. You're inhaling your food. But so I ate 8 pounds of meat, and then I felt literally like a crocodile that had just eaten a goat. I mean, I was so full, and I couldn't do anything but lay on a couch I had to lay down for 4 hours because I couldn't move. I was so miserable. And I was like, I'm never doing this again, because it just doesn't make sense. So for me, a 2 pound meal for me is perfect. I mean, I feel good. I taste the whole grade the whole way. But once I get past about 2.5 pounds, then it starts to become more of a chore.
Mhm.
So that's kind of that's a meal for me. That's what and I like to eat what I want to eat and feel relatively full and satiated. But beyond that, it starts to become where it's not fun. And so like when I'm trying to put on muscle and trying to gain weight on carnivore, I have to get into that eat more than I enjoy type of situation. That's what a lot of people that say I can't put on muscle. I'm saying you got to really push it to sort of gain weight in some cases for carnivore. For some people, it depends on who they are. But yeah, 8 pounds was my most. Now I will tell you, I think this is worth pointing out here. So I interviewed with Zach again, Molly Schuyler, who is a competitive eater, female, and she's probably
Okay.
your size, Judy. I mean, she's probably 120 pounds at most, right?
Okay. Okay.
And she went up to Madison, Wisconsin for an all you can eat prime rib challenge. And the record was 10 pounds. Somebody had literally gone in there and
Wow.
ate 10 pounds, right? So she goes in there and says, hey, can I eat more? Can I just keep going? Because she knew she was going to. So she goes in there, eats 5 pounds, 10 pounds, go past it, 11 pounds, beats it, eats 15 pounds, eats 20 pounds, gets to 22.5 pounds. And they say, I'm sorry, we have no more steak. We're done. You've eaten us out of the entire restaurant. She was still going at 22.5 pounds. And just interestingly enough, if you look up like a gray wolf, the capacity of a gray wolf, which weighs about 140 pounds, can eat about 22.5 pounds of meat. I mean, it just happened that those things lined up. So that may be the human stomach capacity, or very near it, that you could do. Now you probably wouldn't have to eat again for a week, but it's possible. And so yeah, but eight was for me. I was miserable with that, and I don't ever want to do that again. I'll sometimes go to these like all you can eat Brazilian restaurants, and I'll pound down 4 or 5, at one of those churrascaria places,
Right.
just to get my money worth. Because I'm like, if I'm going to pay $50, I'm going to get $50 worth of meat in me. So anyway, but yeah,
No, that's good.
that's
That's good. Every time we have a client that says they can't eat enough meat, I'm totally going to tell the story of, well, did you know that Dr. Baker ate 8 pounds of meat in one sitting? I mean, that's a lot, but
yeah.
it just shows, because we have clients that say that they can't hit a pound of meat in a sitting, or
Mhm.
some won't even eat 3/4 of a pound. And it's just, we need them to eat more for their thyroid and their hormone function.
Yeah.
So it's a journey, but
It takes some time. It takes some time, I think. And like I said, most people they'll find their capacity goes up. There's conversely, some people, it's kind of funny when they first start carnivore, because they're so nutrient depleted, they become voracious. And
yeah,
I've
yeah,
seen
yeah.
like small women, 110-pound women, putting down 3 or 4 pounds. And then, but then that levels off I think our body has this sort of nutrient sensing thermostat, so, as you will, that kind of says, okay, we got enough, whatever. We got enough fat soluble items. Now we can dial it back a little bit, perhaps.
No, that totally makes sense. As we close, last question. People watching this, is there a final tip or anything? If people are brand new to carnivore, they're just participating in World Carnivore Month for the first time, is there something that you would say, do this?
I think just surround yourself. Even if it's temporary, jump in on a community. It could be our community. It could be, I'm Judy, I'm sure you have a group. That's so helpful. I mean, it's so helpful to have a supportive, surround yourself with supportive people, because it is you're still swimming upstream. You're going against the grain. A lot of people will be critical of you. Maybe your physician won't support you, your family won't support you. You need to find people that have done it, because a lot of people they they hear about it, they go off on their own, they try it, and then maybe they just don't have the knowledge that would help them to get through some transition issues that occur. So I think that, I mean, there's a lot of tips I could give people, but I think
Sure.
just get in an environment where you have those resources, surround yourself with resources, support, accountability, and motivation. And that's really it's going to definitely increase your likelihood of success.
I completely agree. I think the community aspect is so huge. Where can people find you? If people are interested in joining Revero when it finally launches, where can they find that? And just anywhere
Yeah.
else?
So if you go to Revero, as spelled on my t-shirt here, Revero
It'll be in the show notes.
dot com, you can set up on the waiting list. We have about, I think, 2,000 people on the waiting list right now to join. So we're excited. We're going to have a lot of patients, but get on there nonetheless. As soon as we have a spot, we'll email people and let them know we're accepting patients. That's where you can go to get on Revero. If you need a physician that's supportive, that supports you in your quest of it. And just to be clear, Revero is not 100% carnivore. There will be
Right.
other versions, ketogenic, low. It's mostly going to be low carb, but it's going to be eliminations. We're going to work with the patient where they need to be. Not everybody needs to go carnivore. That's clear. So there's that. If you want to follow me, right now I still have Carnivore.diet. I do a meeting every single day, 7 days a week, unless I'm traveling. Carnivore.diet, you can join for free, sign up for a free month. And then if you like it, you can continue on. It's still pretty inexpensive. That's where I'm at every day if you want to talk to me directly. I do consultations, so you can go on the website and find it. If you wanted to book a one-on-one session with me, I do that still. Don't know how much longer I'll be doing that, but I'm still doing it for the foreseeable future. And then my social media, Instagram, Shawn Baker 1967, so SHAWN Baker 1967. I'm on Twitter at SBakerMD. I've got what's the other one? YouTube. Shawn Baker MD. I'm on TikTok, Shawn Baker MD. I should have aligned them all the same name, but I don't know. I just haven't done that. So one day maybe.
Are you out of all of the social media jails now?
I'm probably shadow banned in all of them, but
Okay.
I'm out of jail at least. At least I'm out of jail in YouTube. YouTube suspended my channel like 5 times, and
Oh, okay.
I almost lost it, on several occasions. But it seems to be, and that is a concern. And I know when I go on Rogan, I'm going to bring this up again because I think it's so important. The suppression, the sort of, they talk about not freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach is the new sort of slogan, which means, yeah, you're allowed to say whatever you want, but we're going to show it to 2 people instead of the hundreds of thousands of people that might or otherwise. It's still censorship in a way, and so
Right.
we've got to push back against the censorship, and however we do it legally, supporting. At least Twitter or X is a little bit more free. I mean, there's some other sites that are there, but I mean, gosh, it's systematically harder to be successful when you have a message that doesn't go with the corporate message, and the corporate pharmaceutical, processed food, big is beautiful, healthy at any size. Eat garbage and take your Ozempic shots. I mean, anybody who pushes back from that is going to be suppressed, unfortunately. But the good news is enough people are stepping back that they can't sort of suppress the truth forever. I think it's coming out, and that shows by the growth of carnivore that people are just going by results, because no one would do this if it didn't work. There would be nobody that would voluntarily give up all these other foods if they weren't seeing tremendous benefit. And I think that's why it's been so successful.
No, I love it. I think that's a great way to end. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure. And I'm sure we'll do this again in 1 year and we'll have exciting news. I'm sure Revero will be up and running and you could share even amazing patient studies. So I am looking forward to that. But thank you so much for everything you do. If you didn't start getting onto Rogan and doing your carnivore stuff, I wouldn't also be here too. So it's I'm always indebted to you as well. So thank you.
All right, Judy, keep up the good work. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye
You
now.
too. Talk to you later. Bye. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this interview. It was fun. It was a little bit light and then a lot of serious too, but I hope it just gives you some information and motivation to do World Carnivore Month successfully. It's always a pleasure to sit down with Dr. Baker because he's so practical and balanced in his way of carnivore. And we like to be that way too, because we truly believe in meeting clients and patients where they are. And that is also for the community. I can share a perfect diet that has every single micronutrient and macronutrient to be perfect. But if you can't follow that for more than 5 days-ish before you fall off, then it doesn't really matter. It's all about consistency, and consistency will really be supported, like Dr. Baker said, when you eat what you like and you eat sufficiently. And then the rest can be nuanced and stuff that you don't have to worry about until you have to. As a reminder, we have finally opened a Carnivore Journey beginners group and carnivore support group for people that are looking to get to root cause healing. This is not just a momentary dietary change, but a change for true healing. And we have carnivore discussions and lessons, and we have group Q&As, and we have accountability partners, and we have challenges, and we have longer term challenges so that you can learn more about carnivore and just holistic healing, so that you can then find the steps and things that you need to work on to get to root cause healing. It's a lot of fun, and make sure to join. We have a lot of content that we do not share publicly. Okay, guys, make sure to eat a lot of meat. Take care of your bodies, because it is the only place you have to live. I will talk to you later. Bye, guys.